Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni. 141st verses from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel Thien Thai in the USA. Not wandering naked, nor matted locks, nor filth, nor fasting, nor lying on the ground, nor dust, nor ashes, nor striving squatting on the heels, can purify a mortal who has not overcome doubts. Thus spoke the Blessed One, not to condemn the body, not to mock hardship, not to deny discipline, but to awaken the human heart from confusion. In the time of the Buddha, there lived those who believed purity could be worn upon the skin, those who believed liberation could be forced through pain, those who believed that if the body were humbled enough, the mind would bow into freedom. There was an ascetic who wandered unclothed beneath the sun and rain, letting heat scorch his flesh and cold bite his bones, believing that exposure itself was holiness. His hair grew tangled like a nest of thorns, his body was smeared with dirt and ash, his food was almost none, his sleep was on bare ground. His posture was bent in long squatting until blood and breath trembled together. People saw him and believed he was pure, believing suffering was proof, believing appearance was truth. When the Buddha encountered such striving, his gaze was soft, not rejecting, not praising, but seeing clearly. He taught that doubt still lived in that heart, that clinging still hid within that struggle, that the self was still being carved and polished for display. The Buddha spoke not against effort, but against confusion. He spoke not against discipline, but against the belief that discipline alone is awakening. He revealed that doubt is not washed away by water or dust or hunger, that ignorance does not flee from nakedness, that craving can hide inside pain as easily as pleasure. The true story carried in this verse is not about robes or skin, not about food or posture, but about direction. A mind that doubts the path, a heart that grasps at forms, cannot be purified by outer fire. Only when doubt is seen, only when craving is understood, only when views are released, does the human being move toward freedom. The Buddha offered this verse as medicine, not as judgment, reminding all who walk the path that purity is not a costume, not a wound, not a performance, but a quiet clarity born from understanding. Thus this verse stands like a bell in the forest, calling practitioners away from extremes, away from self-torture and self-display, guiding them inward, where doubt must be met gently and wisdom must arise naturally, like a lotus lifting itself from the water without force. The path spoken by the Buddha turns the gaze inward, away from the dust of display and toward the quiet field of the heart, where roots of suffering and freedom both grow side by side. When a person believes that holiness lies in harshness, the mind is still bargaining with the world, still measuring gain and loss, still asking to be seen. True Dharma does not shout. It does not wound the body to convince the mind. It speaks softly, like rain entering the soil, unseen yet nourishing everything beneath. The Buddha taught that doubt is not an enemy to be beaten, but a veil to be lifted. Doubt arises when understanding is incomplete, when wisdom has not yet ripened, when the mind clings to views and fears their loss. No amount of hunger can starve doubt away. No amount of pain can frighten it into leaving. Doubt dissolves only when wisdom illuminates it, just as darkness vanishes not by force but by light. Thus the Blessed One guided disciples to observe the mind patiently, to watch thoughts arise and pass, to see how craving dresses itself as virtue, how pride hides behind austerity, how the self survives even in ashes. When the practitioner sits quietly, not striving to become holy, not striving to reject the world, but simply breathing and knowing the breath, the Dharma begins to work without violence. Morality becomes gentle and firm, not rigid like a cage, but strong like the earth. Concentration becomes steady, not tense like a clenched fist, but calm like a lake without wind. Wisdom becomes clear, not sharp like a weapon, but bright like the morning sky. In such practice, the body is cared for as a vessel, neither indulged nor abused. The mind is trained with kindness, neither suppressed nor indulged. And the heart opens without demand. The Buddha's teaching here reminds us that the middle way is not weakness, not compromise, but deep understanding. To avoid extremes is not to avoid effort, but to direct effort wisely. When effort is guided by right view, it heals. When effort is guided by doubt, it exhausts. Many wander long roads seeking purity in forms, but the Dharma whispers that liberation is closer than breath, closer than skin, closer than the next thought. When one abandons the need to appear pure, purity quietly arises. When one releases the urge to conquer suffering, suffering begins to loosen its grip. The verse invites practitioners to return home, to stop decorating the self with hardship, to stop measuring worth by visible sacrifice, and to begin the simple work of seeing clearly. In seeing clearly, the mind recognizes impermanence, understands unsatisfactoriness, and releases the illusion of a fixed self. This seeing is the true cleansing, the washing that leaves no residue, the fire that burns without smoke. As doubts fade, faith becomes unshakable, not because it clings to belief, but because it rests in direct knowing. The Buddha's compassion shines in this teaching, offering freedom not only to ascetics of old, but to all who still believe they must suffer to deserve peace. The Dharma assures us that peace is not a reward, but a recognition. It arises when ignorance ends, when grasping softens, when the heart learns to rest in truth without adornment. When doubt is overcome, the path unfolds naturally, like a river finding the sea without argument or strain. The Buddha taught that doubt is one of the inner knots that binds beings to restlessness, a wavering that pulls the mind backward even while the feet move forward. This doubt is not merely uncertainty about teachings, but a deeper hesitation to trust direct experience, a fear of letting go of familiar identities. One may wear robes, shave the head, fast for days, or sit unmoving through long nights, yet still secretly ask whether this path will truly free the heart. As long as that question trembles with fear and grasping, purification remains incomplete. The Dharma invites practitioners to look honestly at this trembling, not to condemn it, not to hide it beneath discipline, but to understand its causes. Doubt is born from ignorance, and ignorance dissolves through mindful seeing. When the mind observes its own movements with patience, it begins to recognize how doubt arises from craving for certainty, from the wish to secure the self against loss. The Buddha did not ask disciples to destroy doubt through belief, but to outgrow it through insight. When impermanence is clearly seen, doubt loses its footing. When suffering is deeply understood, doubt no longer seduces the heart. When non-self is realized, doubt finds no owner to cling to. In this way, Purification becomes an inner unfolding, not an outer conquest. The practitioner learns to walk gently, neither dragging the body through pain nor chasing pleasure as escape. Each step is guided by awareness. Each breath becomes a teacher, each moment a mirror. The Dharma speaks here of dignity, a quiet dignity that does not need to prove itself. A person who lives with integrity, who speaks truthfully, who acts with compassion, and who trains the mind with steadiness, radiates purity without intention. Such a person may appear ordinary, yet their presence soothes others. Their words carry weight. Their silence teaches. This is the purity praised by the Buddha, a purity that cannot be imitated because it arises from understanding. It does not depend on circumstances, does not collapse under criticism, does not inflate under praise. When doubt fades, confidence arises naturally, not as arrogance, but as trust in the path. The heart becomes light, no longer burdened by comparison, no longer driven by the need to be special or severe. The middle way reveals itself as freedom from performance, freedom from extremes, freedom from self-violence. In this freedom, the practitioner discovers that the body is not an enemy, but a companion on the path, deserving care and respect. The mind is not a tyrant to be crushed, but a field to be cultivated. Thoughts are seen as passing clouds, feelings as waves, neither clung to nor feared. The Buddha's verse gently dismantles the illusion that holiness must hurt. It replaces fear with clarity, effort with balance, struggle with understanding. As the mind settles into right view, right intention naturally follows, leading to right speech, right action, and right livelihood, all flowing without strain. Concentration deepens, wisdom matures, and liberation draws near, not as a distant goal, but as a present reality unfolding moment by moment. In this way, the Dharma transforms the seeker into a knower, the struggler into a witness, the wanderer into one who abides peacefully wherever they stand. As understanding deepens, the practitioner begins to see how subtle the roots of attachment truly are, how easily the mind turns even spiritual effort into identity. The Buddha's teaching in this verse shines a light on this subtle danger, reminding us that the ego can wear rags as easily as silk, that pride can live in renunciation just as it lives in possession. When one believes that purity is proven by hardship, the self quietly takes center stage, measuring endurance, comparing sacrifice, and seeking recognition, even if only in the mirror of one's own mind. The Dharma invites a gentler, braver honesty, asking the practitioner to release the need to be someone who is pure, and instead to understand the conditions that create suffering. This understanding does not arise through force, but through sustained mindfulness, through patient observation of body, feeling, mind, and phenomena. When the body is observed, it is seen as changing, fragile, dependent on countless causes. When feelings are observed, they are known as fleeting, neither reliable nor controllable. When the mind is observed, its restless nature becomes clear, jumping from hope to fear, from judgment to desire. And when phenomena are observed, the web of causes and conditions reveals itself, dissolving the illusion of a separate self. In this seeing, doubt begins to weaken, because doubt feeds on ignorance, and ignorance cannot survive in the presence of clear awareness. The Buddha taught that purification is the natural result of wisdom, not the prize of endurance. Just as muddy water clears when left undisturbed, the mind becomes clear when grasping subsides. The practitioner learns to trust this process, to stop stirring the water with excessive striving, to stop demanding results on a fixed timetable. Faith matures into confidence, a confidence rooted not in belief, but in repeated seeing. Each time craving is noticed and released, confidence grows. Each time anger is met with understanding, confidence deepens. Each time doubt arises and is gently investigated, wisdom strengthens. This is the quiet heroism of the path, unseen by crowds, unnoticed by praise, yet transforming the heart completely. The Buddha's verse calls practitioners back from the edges of extremism into the living center of awareness, where life is met fully but without clinging. In this center, the practitioner can engage the world without being consumed by it, can care deeply without losing balance, can serve others without losing oneself. Purity here is not withdrawal, but freedom within engagement. It is the ability to touch suffering without becoming bitter, to witness impermanence without despair, to face death without fear. Such purity cannot be stained by dust or ash, because it is not located in form. It is the purity of intention, the clarity of view, the compassion that arises naturally when the illusion of separation falls away. The Buddha's compassion in offering this teaching lies in its accessibility. One does not need to abandon the world to walk this path. One does not need to punish the body or starve the senses. One needs only to cultivate mindfulness, ethical conduct, and wisdom, moment by moment, wherever one stands. In doing so, the practitioner honors the middle way, avoiding both indulgence and self-mortification, walking a path that is firm yet flexible, disciplined yet kind. As doubt dissolves, peace becomes stable, not dependent on conditions, not shaken by change. The heart rests in understanding, and from this resting arises a joy that is quiet, steady, and free. This joy is not excitement, but contentment, not pleasure, but ease. It is the fragrance of a mind purified by insight, a fragrance that spreads naturally, benefiting all beings without intention. When the heart settles into this quiet joy, the practitioner begins to understand the Buddha's teaching not as an idea to be believed, but as a living truth to be embodied. The verse speaks across time, reminding each generation that liberation is not found through outward severity, but through inward clarity. The mind that no longer doubts the path becomes steady, like a lamp sheltered from the wind. Such steadiness allows compassion to arise without effort, because when the self is no longer defended, the suffering of others is naturally felt and responded to. The Buddha taught that when doubt fades, generosity flows freely, not as obligation, but as joy. One gives not to gain merit, not to appear virtuous, but because the heart understands interconnectedness. In this understanding, harming another feels like harming oneself, and kindness becomes the most natural expression of wisdom. The practitioner sees that ethical conduct is not a rule imposed from outside, but a reflection of inner harmony. When the mind is free from confusion, actions align effortlessly with the Dharma. Speech becomes gentle and truthful, silence becomes meaningful, and listening becomes deep. The body moves through the world without excess, without neglect, cared for as a tool of awakening rather than an object of punishment. This balanced relationship with the body reflects the Buddha's profound compassion for human life, recognizing it as rare, precious, and capable of realization. The verse cautions against wasting this opportunity by becoming lost in extremes, by mistaking endurance for enlightenment or suffering for wisdom. Instead, it calls for a patient cultivation of insight, a willingness to sit with uncertainty until understanding dawns. The practitioner learns to stay present with discomfort without creating stories, to observe pleasure without grasping, and to meet neutrality without boredom. In this steady presence, doubt has no place to root, because experience is met directly, without filters of belief or fear. The Buddha's teaching reveals that purity is not a static state, but an ongoing process of letting go. Each moment offers the chance to release clinging, to soften resistance, to return to awareness. When this process is trusted, the path becomes lighter and practice becomes sustainable. There is no need to force awakening, because awakening is the natural result of seeing things as they are. The practitioner begins to appreciate simplicity, finding contentment in few desires, peace in ordinary moments, and meaning in mindful living. The world is no longer divided into sacred and profane, because every moment becomes an opportunity for understanding. Walking, standing, sitting, and lying down are all infused with awareness. Work becomes practice, relationships become teachers, and challenges become gateways to insight. The verse reminds us that the Dharma is alive wherever the mind is awake. It does not require special costumes, extreme postures, or dramatic gestures. It requires sincerity, patience, and courage. Courage to face one's own confusion, patience to let wisdom mature, and sincerity to walk the path without pretending. When these qualities are present, purification unfolds naturally, like fruit ripening on the tree in its own season. The Buddha's words continue to guide practitioners toward this ripening, offering reassurance that the path is workable, humane, and compassionate. In following this guidance, one discovers a freedom that does not depend on approval or achievement, a freedom rooted in understanding. Steady and unshakable, this freedom is the true purification praised by the Buddha, a purification that liberates not only the individual heart, but contributes quietly to the healing of the world. As the path reaches its quiet completion, the practitioner no longer measures progress by effort or display, but by the diminishing of suffering and the widening of compassion. The Buddha's teaching in this verse comes to rest in the heart as a simple truth. What purifies a human being is not what is worn or endured, but what is understood and released. When doubt is fully overcome, the mind stands free, no longer pulled between extremes, no longer chasing ideals or fleeing discomfort. It abides in clarity, grounded in right view, softened by loving kindness, and guided by wisdom. In this abiding, the noble path fulfills itself naturally. Ethical conduct becomes effortless because harm no longer makes sense. Concentration deepens because the mind no longer scatters itself in craving. Wisdom shines steadily because ignorance has lost its power. The practitioner lives in the world without being bound by it, responding to conditions with calm and care. Birth and death are seen as natural movements, gain and loss as passing waves, praise and blame as empty sounds. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be taken away. Life is lived fully, simply, and awake. This is the peace the Buddha offered. This is the purification he praised. Thank you for watching my video. Namalammitpa. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.